As we travel down this particular rattlesnake hole, I think you'll notice a pattern emerge. Lucy-centered episodes are irritating speed bumps on the road to the watch-through. But occasionally, we might find something deeper, if we just dig a little. Plus, disco. Lucy rides out to the mailbox to intercept a letter, which she promptly burns. Meanwhile, Bobby is teaching Pam how to ride a horse when he overhears Ray complaining about being forced to take Lucy to school.
To run, Hal. I got no time to be no warden.
Make time, Ray.
Bobby plays the hard ass, and who can blame him for holding a grudge after Ray's part in the conspiracy in the last episode? Sue Ellen and JR give Lucy a hard time about her scandalous outfit, which consists of a bulky sweater and jeans.
I can't go disgracing the family now, can I?
Ray asks Pamela to intervene on his behalf with her husband so he doesn't get fired, but Bobby tells her there's nothing to worry about as long as Ray does his job. The problem is, Ray is doing more than his job. More on that in a minute. Miss Ellie vents to Pam about the tough Ewing men letting Lucy run roughshod over them.
These strong Ewing men never have had the strength to say no to her, and I haven't been any stronger.
Pam receives a call from the school's guidance counselor, so she storms over to warn Ray that he will get fired if Lucy keeps missing school. Pam has known about Ray and Lucy since the last episode, which means that she's willing to let a little statutory rape go, but she draws the line at truancy.
I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at animal cruelty.
You can excuse racism.
Elsewhere, Bobby is getting suspicious about JR's business dealings, especially since Ewing Oil seems to hold an outsized amount of political power.
Your brother's a very persuasive fellow.
Well, it takes more than persuasiveness to swing these votes. It takes oil. We don't have that kind of oil.
We get a nice bit with JR and his secretary Julie conspiring to freeze Bobby out.
What's all that?
Nothing. Camouflage. Bobby's out there with the association minutes.
I love these little bits of character that show how willing people like Julie are to collaborate with JR just to be next to the power that he wields. Pam drags Lucy to school, where Lucy is immediately hit on by Roger Hurley, who tries his best Eddie Haskell routine on Pam. Pam falls for it, but Lucy tells her he's a creep. Pam's best efforts to bond are rebuffed, and Lucy ups the stakes by faking a sexual assault by one of her teachers. Roger sees this and uses it to blackmail her into going out with him. Pam doesn't believe Lucy's story, but the principal is so scared of Jock Ewing that he's willing to bury the teacher under the school.
Sir, I have a family.
So do I.
Lucy offers to set things right if Pam will cover up for her truancy in the future.
You just make sure no more letters come to the house when I skip school.
You really worked this beautifully.
Thank you.
Bobby challenges JR on the possible corruption of Ewing Oil's business practices, but JR tells him to mind his own business.
I've been making the company work, and I've been making it grow.
Well, that's true enough. Ever since I can remember, all you ever thought about was running Ewing Oil.
That's the way it's going to stay. That answer your question?
Oh, yeah. Answered a few of them I didn't even ask.
By coincidence of script, Ray, Lucy, Bobby, Pam, and Roger all wind up at the opening of Braddock's hottest new disco. The theme song becomes diegetic at this point, or at least the disco remix of it does.
Say, you're pretty good.
Lucy tries to get Ray to save her from Roger, which Bobby sees and misunderstands in an ironic twist. Ray and Bobby have it out, but come to an understanding.
If it ain't about me and Lucy, we got nothing left to fight about. Pam's your lady, all the way.
Pam finds out that Roger is the real creep and chases him off under threat of Ewing justice. Lucy accuses Pam of being manipulative, but Bobby plays peacemaker and we're out. Going back for a rewatch on the show, I found it exceedingly difficult to get through the Ray and Lucy episodes. Being a child of the 80s, my first instinct when I see outdated mores like this is to make fun of them. Ridicule, I always learned, was the best way to take power away from something. The problem with that is that I risk minimizing the real-life psychological damage these sorts of relationships can cause. Treating the frankly horrifying relationship between Ray and Lucy like it's on the same moral level as the disco remix of the Dallas theme song, or Patrick Duffy's Lone Star Fro, does a disservice to real-life young women and young men who were groomed by older predators. According to the Ultimate Dallas website, Ray was born in 1945 and Lucy was born in 1961, making him 32 and her 16. The problem with these episodes goes much deeper than the age gap, though. It's about how the audience is supposed to feel about what's going on. The other characters just look at the relationship as mildly scandalous, but what the audience sees is even worse. In the little bits where it's just Lucy, Ray, and us, Lucy is portrayed as having all the power and Ray is the helpless chucklehead in her thrall. You know a trope is bad when it's simultaneously misogynistic and misandrous. Seeing girls portrayed as sirens and men as their unwitting victims is insulting to women, but it's also insulting to men and our ability to avoid raping women. Maybe even worse is Lucy's overt false accusation against her teacher, Mr. Miller. If one didn't think Lucy was a predatory spider woman before, they'd lose all ability to sympathize with her after that. It's just bad all around. So let's just stipulate that while 16-year-olds have hormones, 32-year-olds should be held to a higher moral and ethical standard and considered the impact of their actions. Now, with that stipulation out of the way, let's look at this from a more literary and psychological standpoint, because out of the sociological context, it's a fascinating relationship. Lucy spends most of the episode acting out by skipping school, seducing Ray, blackmailing Pam, and falsely accusing Mr. Miller. Miss Ellie takes the blame for this, but Pam thinks everyone feels so guilty about Gary leaving that they just coddle Lucy as an overcorrection.
I always wanted a daughter. Maybe it's a good thing I never had one. Lucy's father, he wasn't strong. Couldn't compete. That's why he left.
Parental abandonment goes a long way to explaining Lucy's need to coax an older man into a relationship with her, and her hesitation to let Pam play the role of mother. Ambivalent or avoidant relationships of a woman with her father tend to lead to higher levels of sexual activity, and the same relationships with her mother are associated with emotional detachment, both of which are on display in this episode. And while it's not exactly a twist worthy of O. Henry, it is interesting that Lucy blackmails Pam with a false accusation of rape against Mr. Miller, only to have nice guy Roger try to blackmail Lucy into having sex with him against her will. This episode is primarily the Pam and Lucy show, so there's little else to talk about except the beginnings of a power struggle inside the boardroom at Ewing Oil. But that's a story for another time.